Gugelmin, pole position in a Rult. Andy Wallace, second in a Reynard. Then Dave Scott, the British driver, in another Rult. Alongside him, Russell Spence, who's actually won more races in the championship than anybody else, including the two leaders. And the weather, with a dry, warm track and clear blue skies under a bright sun, could not be better. And sure enough, Wallace creeps across towards Gugelmin, who with an absolutely blinding start takes the lead at Copse Corner, and that may have already won in the race, but it's Wallace in second place and Russell Spence in third position as they go from Copse on towards Magnus, the sweeping left-hander, building up to 135 miles an hour from that standing start. Now towards the right-hander of Beckett's. It is still Gugelmin leading, Wallace in second position, and it looks like Gary Evans, the young British driver, in the Murray-Taylor Rult, up into third position as they go round the left-hander at Chapel, down towards Stowe Corner, down the Hanger Straight at nearly 140 miles an hour, and it's Anthony Reid who is in third position. Anthony Reid, who has left the Reynard Saab team and is now driving, there he is, number 17, going round there in the Dave Price Racing Reynard with its VW engine, and Reid has been transformed. He was fifth fastest in practice, and Russell Spence is coming up. Russell Spence is up into third position. Andrew Gilbert Scott is fourth. Down to fifth position goes Anthony Reid, and Gilbert Scott has made an absolutely terrific start. The young Englishman was in 8th position on the grid. Here they come at the end of the first lap, out of 15, into the chicane at Woodcote, and it's Gugelmin leading. Wallace is second. Russell Spence is in third place. Gilbert Scott goes through and takes fourth. Gilbert and Reid, and down. Off goes one of the Reynards. Off goes Graham DeZille. That's one of the Reynard Saabs, and it looks like Julian Bailey. It is Julian Bailey walking disgustedly away from his Reynard Saab. His race over at the end of the first lap.
So now Gugelmin has that lead he wanted. Andy Wallace's start didn't quite go as he planned it, and now he's got an awful lot of work to do. It's very, very hard to close that gap that Gugelmin has. It's a tantalising gap. Gugelmin got his head down, got away at the start, while Wallace got a bit bogged down, moved over. It didn't work. Spence there through into a clear third. Looks like Gilbert Scott in fourth. But the leaders, Wallace has it all to do.
There's Russell Spence, number 3, who has won 4 events in the championship, compared with the 3 of Andy Wallace and the 2 of Maurizio Gugelmin. There's the Yorkshireman. He's changed from the Reynard car, which he started the championship with, to a Rult, and he's stayed with that. He's been very successful in the Reynard initially, but at the end of the second lap, Gugelmin looks as though he's stamping his personality on the race. But the battle now is developing for third position, with Andrew Gilbert Scott, who is number 39, in fourth place as they leap and bounce their way over the curbs at the chicane. Somebody off at Club Corner. Can't identify the car from there. Let's see if we can identify the driver.
That's Bertrand Gachot, the very young Formula Ford driver from Luxembourg, Belgium. Very promising Formula Ford man, but not had a very promising Formula 3 debut.
So there is Andy Wallace, and Gugelmin, who's had, under the guidance of Dick Bennett, the New Zealand driver, a lot of trouble getting his car right, but has done it at the end of the season. Looks as though he is on his way to do what he's done several times in the past, win a championship at the last race of the championship. 2 wins, 3 second places, 6 thirds, 6 fastest laps, and he is a brilliant young man. He started off in karts. He then became the champion of Brazil. He became RAC Formula Ford champion in Britain. Then he was European Formula Ford 2000 champion in 1984. This is his first year of Formula 3, And here are the midfield men streaming through the chicane, which, believe it or not, they take at about 115 miles an hour in these 2-litre cars, which develop about 160 brake horsepower. And on the fastest part of the course, the run up to Woodcote, will do about 145 miles an hour. This is lap 4.
Well, Guzman now really eking out more and more of a gap, bit by bit. Andy Wallace, he was a little bit ragged for a couple of laps. Hopefully, I think he needs to settle down slightly to go quicker. Quite often in these Formula 3 cars and these very fast Silverstone suite, momentum is all important. And Andy was a little bit wild at the chicane a couple of times, which actually makes you go slower. But now the gap looks about the same as it was a lap ago, and Andy Wallace now driving much smoother, getting into the groove, a little bit wide there, but he's got a lot of work to do, and for British hopes, let's hope he can catch Maurizio Guzman.
Yes, because he has got to get ahead of and beat Gugelmin and get the fastest lap of the race, for which there is an extra point in order to stand a chance of winning the championship. And at the present moment, Gugelmin in the lead is 1.4 seconds ahead of Andy Wallace. Russell Spence and Andrew Gilbert-Scott, you just see them coming into the picture. Here they come down towards Copse. There in the white, orange and black Rult is Yorkshireman Russell Spence, third position, and he still hasn't got the car, I think, set up as well as he would like it to be. But in fourth place, as you look at Gugelmin, the leader, Wallace in second place, in fourth place in the Systime Racing for Britain car is Andrew Gilbert-Scott, who's had a very fraught season too, the ex-Formula Ford man who won the festival and 3 British Championships all in the same year, went to Macau to drive in Formula 3 last year and has missed several races this year in a pretty new car, backed by British enthusiasts' money, contributed to Racing for Britain, which you see on the side of his car, and he's clipping the lead now of Russell Spence ahead of him, who is in third place. This is the battle for third. Gugelmin leads, Wallace second, there is the fourth man, Gilbert-Scott ahead of him in the basically white Rult, Yorkshireman Russell Spence number 3. Behind them in 5th and 6th positions, it's Ross Cheever, who has come up from 14th position on the grid to 5th, and in 6th position the Dutchman Gerrit van Kouwen. And across the line, Gugelmin leads, Wallace second into the chicane, the battle for third. Russell Spence is still there. Gilbert-Scott is 4th. Here's Gugelmin. Very cool, quiet, cheerful Brazilian, backed by the largest chicken farm in Brazil. And Gugelmin, who really is a tactical thinker, has undoubtedly been talking to his compatriot Ayrton Senna. They share a house together in Isha, owned by Senna, and Maurizio Gugelmin and his wife run the house, and Senna probably gives Gugelmin a lot of tactical information, and he's certainly making the best of it now. He's under one of the very best team managers, Dick Bennett's the New Zealander, and that's the man who brought Stefan Johansson and Jonathan Palmer to British Formula 3 Championship winning status, and it looks as though he's got a third winner on his hands, because coming into Woodcote at just about half distance, 7 laps completed, Gugelmin, Wallace, I think, Tiff, can only now hope for something to go wrong to Gugelmin's car.
Yes, certainly the gap is just edging out piece by piece, and he's doing his very, very best. But on the day, it looks like Gugelmin's got his car set up much, much better. And certainly around the Silverstone Grand Prix circuit, Maurizio has been very, very quick. Wallace really needs to get ahead of him. Gugelmin's very fast and smooth, but sometimes he's not that good a fighter from behind. But this time he made the start, and he's the quickest man on the track at the moment. There's no doubt about that.
They're all using the same Avon control tyre, which gives them identical boots, as it were, but they're driving very different cars. Look at the battle for third now, with Andrew Gilbert-Scott tucked up underneath the wing and coming out of the slipstream of Russell Spence's car, who immediately moves across the track. Some people may say that that was a rather debatable manoeuvre. What do you think, Tim?
No, as long as you're ahead, then the weaving is an accepted form of blocking, as it were. I mean, the rule of the road for drivers in racing is that the person ahead can go wherever he wants, basically. But of course, once someone's alongside of you, then edging someone off the road does become very illegal and rather naughty. But there, that was simply the guy out front can go where he wants, and the guy behind must make the break and get through. But Andrew, of course, is doing the trick now of always showing himself in Russell's mirrors. He's pulling out, sometimes not to overtake, but simply to show that he's there, to keep Russell on edge, and to make sure Russell maybe gets pressured into a small mistake. And here, the huge battle for fifth, with Ross Cheever still holding sway over Van Cowan, Scott, Reed and Gary Evans at the back of this hectic bunch.
And there's Ross Cheever, who's the brother of Formula One Grand Prix driver Eddie Cheever, incidentally, driving a virtually new car, and it looks as though there's going to be a change now as they come round the left-hander at Maggots, down to the right-hander at Beckett's. Ross Cheever is still there. Gerrit Van Cowan trying for it, and there is Anthony Reid, who has got ahead of Dave Scott, who is being challenged as they go round the left-hander there by Gary Evans. Ross Cheever, number 7, and they split now. They're finding their lines for the right-hander at Stowe. Ross Cheever, number 7, then Van Cowan, Anthony Reid in the blue and white car. Dave Scott has repassed Gary Evans. This is the battle for 5th place, and this is lap 9. It's a 15-lap race. I said earlier on that the lap record could be vital, but at the present moment it isn't, because Mauricio Gugelmin does not need that extra point on account of the fact that he is leading number 2 there, Andy Wallace, who is in 2nd place on the 10th lap out of 15. So Gugelmin is on his way to 9 points. Here he is, lapping one of the tail-enders. Now we're going to see some really class driving, because Gugelmin will keep his flowing style going as he comes down Stowe, down Hanger Straight towards Stowe, and Hanger Straight is about just under 6,000 RPM from his VW engine, and if he wins this race, or if practically anybody wins this race actually, it is going to be the 35th VW-powered Formula 3 win since they took over from the previously dominant Toyota engine. And Mauricio Gugelmin is driving an absolute copybook race. So far, he has not put a wheel wrong.
Yes, very smooth indeed. There's hardly a clip of the curb through the chicane, which is approaching now. A chicane where they only drop from 5th to 4th gear, dab of the brakes and sneak through it at over 100 miles an hour. And here he really does have a good line. He'll probably hit the curbs now, as I've said it, but no, there you see beautifully through, not a clip of the chicane at all, and that's really showing he's got the car right. He can go at a very high speed without going offline at all.
So let's see how he goes in relation to Russell Spence's lap record of 1 minute 25.3 seconds. And here's the battle for 5th. 5 cars, Cheever, Reid, Van Cowan, Scott and Evans, virtually together as they go down towards Copse. And into Copse, it's Reid challenging, and they've tangled, and they go off across the grass and slam into the tyres goes Ross Cheever, and incredibly, Anthony Reid has stopped without touching the barrier.
As they went past the pits on that lap, these two were side by side out of the chicane. Reid was trying to get by. Here they are, in fact. Cheever got back to the inside, but Reid gave him a bit of a rude bang in the backside. I think Cheever had probably been holding up that group behind, because Cheever had qualified 15th, made a good start, but there was a coming together there, and they're still going awfully quick even when they've been across the sand track.
The leader, Mauricio Gugelmin, into Stowe. Wallace behind him in 2nd position. Look now for not the lead car here, but the 2 behind, battling for 3rd. Russell Spence in the white, black and orange car. Then in the Racing for Britain car, Gilbert Scott, Andrew Gilbert Scott in 4th position. And here is the battle for 5th, coming down towards us at the present moment. And it looks to me as though it's Van Cowan, the 2nd of these 2 cars. Then behind Van Cowan in number 5 in 5th position, Gary Evans behind him in 6th place in the Murray-Taylor car. Number 6, incidentally, Tim Davis, is about to be lapped, and the leader has gone through. 12 laps completed there on lap 13. Tim Davis is about to be swallowed up by Van Cowan, Gary Davis, and I remind you that Ross Cheever and Anthony Reid have gone off as you look at number 2, appropriately second in the race, and going to be second in the championship, Andy Wallace, coming up to lap the tail ender, and the leader is now on lap 13. A race in which Maurizio Gugelmin, so far, from pole position to the 13th lap, has been totally dominant. Watch him lap the tail enders.
Yes, it's just really tail enders and mechanical problems that can stop Maurizio now from winning this championship. He can't be too careful going through these back markers. He's lost a little bit of time there by following that guy through Stowe, but he has got a fair bit in hand to Andy Wallace there, only just exiting Stowe. He's clubbed. He's extended this lead throughout the race, and now he has the luxury of being able to take it easy through these back markers. The back markers of whom are having a bit of fun on the grass.
Yes, one of them nearly going off there as Gugelmin comes up underneath the bridge to complete his 13th lap. In my excitement of seeing Cheever and Reid go off, I never completed Gugelmin's lap time, so we'll have another go at it this time and see how the Brazilian is doing on this, his 14th and last lap but one. And it's still Wallace in second position. Now, as Gugelmin rounds Copse, we look for Russell Spence and for Andrew Gilbert-Scott, who are still virtually together. That's the real scrap in the top 6 at the present moment. The race leader, Gugelmin, 22 years old. And it's Van Cowan. Behind Van Cowan is Gary Evans. Behind Gary Evans is Dave Scott. And behind Dave Scott is the French woman driver, Cathy Muller. So the lead positions on lap 14, Gugelmin leading, Wallace second, Russell Spence is third. In 4th position, it's Andrew Gilbert-Scott. In 5th position, and look at this, it's Andrew Gilbert-Scott going for 3rd position, but Russell Spence will know exactly what the score is. Well, there, now, what about that, Tim?
Yes, Andrew's obviously getting a bit fed up with following Russell. They started the straight much closer than before. Maybe Russell made a mistake coming up to Beckett's, but Russell's getting a bit rude in defending this position, and Andrew Gilbert-Scott's got a lot to do to get by him. But now he's got a better line out of Club Corner, and he should be able to be right in the slipstream up to the chicane. But this is now coming on to start their last lap. The leader is probably already on that last lap. While there he is, waving his fists to the marshals. He's half on the grass coming under the bridge. He's been pushed on the grass, but I think Andrew's going to hold this line, but no, Russell dives inside, starting their last lap. This, the fight for 3rd place. Very exciting.
And Maurizio Gugelmin has got the fastest lap of the race as well as the lead. He's on the last lap. Andy Wallace looks secure as number 1, appropriately the race leader. Gugelmin has got less than 2 miles to go now as he rounds Chapel for the 15th and last time, cutting his way now through the midfield men, never mind the tail enders. He's gone round in 1 minute 26.25, which is much slower than Russell Spence's lap record. So Gugelmin has not had to stretch himself unduly. There's in the background Andy Wallace in 2nd place with 4 cars between him and Gugelmin, so he has no chance of winning this race, providing Gugelmin can keep his Ralt going. And Ron Toranak, the head man of Ralt, is here to see his cars rubbing the Reynard noses into the dirt, because Reynard dominated at the beginning of this season. Ralt have come back, and Maurizio Gugelmin from Brazil is the Marlboro British Formula 3 champion of 1985 in the best possible way. He has won the race, he has put the fastest lap up. Andy Wallace is in 2nd position because he has completed the race. Now the battle for 3rd, and it's coming up to the chicane the last time now. And it's Andrew Gilbert-Scott is 3rd. He has taken Russell Spence in 4th position and vindicated that forcing style of his and overcome Russell Spence's blocking tactics. In 5th position, it's Gerrit van Kouwen, and in 6th place, it is Gary Evans. So how do you summarise that? You summarise it by saying that Brazil have produced another brilliant champion. This race has been Maurizio Gugelmin's the new British champion.